So, have you ever caught yourself listening to your absolute favorite track and just kind of wondered where its deepest roots actually lie? Well, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going way beyond the surface level here. We aren't just looking at some historical music genre. No, we're decoding the hidden, foundational language of literally all modern American music. We're talking about the blues.
You know, the jazz legend Wynton Marsalis really hit the nail on the head. He said, "The blues runs through anything that's good in American music." And honestly, it is the undisputed authority. Think about it. If you can't play the blues, you really can't play anything authentic in the American vernacular. It is the rich soil that the whole shebang grows from. Here's the roadmap for our explainer today. First, the American music DNA. Second, decoding the blues. Third, from Africa to Chicago. Fourth, the missing curriculum. And finally, building a blues classroom. Let's get right into it.
Section 1, the American music DNA. The foundation of American vernacular music.
Now, think about jazz, R&B, rock and roll, country, hip-hop. On the surface, these might seem like totally distinct musical worlds, right? But the crazy thing is, they all share the exact same hidden DNA. Whether you're talking about the wild improvisational spirit of a jazz solo, the driving heavy rhythm of rock, or those spoken word prog-white traditions you hear in modern hip-hop, understanding the blues is absolutely crucial. You literally cannot fully grasp any of these genres without first getting a handle on the blues.
Moving on to Section 2, Decoding the Blues, Anatomy of a Feeling and Form.
Okay, so the absolute most crucial thing to grasp here is that the blues, it's fundamentally a conversation. It's built on this classic AAB lyric structure. It goes like this. Step 1 is the call. That's your initial statement. Then, step 2 is the response, which is basically repeating that statement, but maybe adding a little vocal embellishment or throwing in a quick answering guitar riff. And finally, step 3 is the conclusion, a resolving stanza that just ties the whole thought together perfectly. It completely mirrors human conversation, which is exactly why it connects with us on such a deep, visceral level.
12. I really want to burn this number into your memory. Now sure, the blues can occasionally pop up in 8, 16, or even totally irregular bar lengths, but the absolute standard, universally recognized structural form of the blues is exactly 12 bars long. And this simple, repetitive, 12-bar framework, it acts like a super resilient canvas that allows for just endless storytelling and improvisation.
And right underneath those 12 bars is a simple but ridiculously mighty harmonic core, the I, 4, and 5 chords. What happened historically was that this European harmonic progression was essentially overlaid onto a pre-existing African vocal style, and the reconciliation between those specific chords and that raw pentatonic blues melody, that's what creates that undeniable visceral rhythm that has been inspiring musicians for well over a century.
All right, Section 3, From Africa to Chicago, Tracing the Roots and Routes. Way deep in the savanna hinterland of West Africa, that's where we find the geographic core for the most characteristic traits of the rural blues. We're talking about deep-rooted traditions of stringed instruments, specific pentatonic tuning patterns, and these highly melismatic, kind of wavy vocal intonations that actually drew influence from Arab and Islamic cultures in that region. And incredibly, these foundational musical traits somehow survived the harrowing, unthinkable journey of slavery and began to evolve in the New World. Now, under the horrific, brutal system of forced labor on American plantations, those African traditions morphed into what we call pre-blues genres. You had work songs, which provided a very deliberate, steady tempo to help pace grueling manual labor. Then there were field hollers, which introduced this improvised call-and-response style and those iconic bent blue notes, mostly just to relieve the sheer crushing monotony of working out in the fields. And of course, spirituals, which blended European hymn styles with deeply emotional, sacred expressions to help maintain community and identity in a profoundly oppressive environment.
But you see, the blues is a living thing. It's always in motion. It first really emerges in the 1890s as a gritty, rural, acoustic form down in the Mississippi Delta. Fast forward to the 1920s, and suddenly technology and early race records are turning incredible female singers into absolute superstars during the classic blues era. Then, hit the 1940s, and you get the Memphis synthesis, where they start blending in gospel vibes and plugging in the electric guitar. And finally, largely driven by the Great Migration, the 1950s hit us with the massive urban blues boom up in Chicago. I'm talking Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, fully amplified, heavy bands that literally laid the direct groundwork for rock and roll as we know it.
Which brings us to Section 4, the missing curriculum. Why the blues is absent from schools.
Guys, you have to consider this massive, glaring contradiction. Traditional school music programs, your standard band, chorus, and orchestra, they are only reaching about 15 to 20% of students. That leaves a staggering 80% of kids completely unengaged in music at school. 80%. We're basically failing to reach them because, well, we aren't teaching the vernacular American music that they actually listen to in their daily lives. We have this incredibly powerful tool to reach that missing 80%, but it's just completely absent from the standard curriculum.
And the real core of the problem here? It lies in exactly how we're teaching. The traditional Eurocentric method relies super heavily on written notation and this very mechanical, theory-first approach. Honestly, it's a lot like trying to learn to speak a vibrant new language exclusively by reading a dusty grammar textbook. Eventually, everybody's solos just tend to sound exactly the same. Now, contrast that with the blues culture method. This is an aural and oral approach. It focuses heavily on listening, feeling the music, and really locking into a groove. It's an ear-first method, and that's exactly what cultivates genuine, authentic, personal expression.
And that leads perfectly into Section 5, Building a Blues Classroom, bringing oral/oral traditions to life.
So here is our structural call to you. How do we actually teach students to speak this language fluently? How do we practically unlock this hidden musical DNA in a classroom setting? And here is the response. We do it by literally using call-and-response. This isn't just some historical lyrical format. It's actually the ultimate pedagogical tool. The goal is to establish a sort of microculture right there in the classroom that replicates exactly how real blues musicians learn out in the real world, by listening closely, repeating what they hear, and answering back. So what does this look like in practice? Well, before you ever even think about handing out a piece of sheet music, you've got to establish that oral and oral culture first. Teach those rhythmic and melodic idioms entirely by ear. Get the students out of their chairs. Incorporate real physical movement. Get them marching around and have them clapping on beats 2 and 4 so they can physically feel that authentic backbeat. Encourage group chanting. Have them sing the bass lines together. You want to be teaching improvisation not like it's some rigid math problem full of scales, but like it's a living, breathing, spoken dialect.
Ultimately, it all boils down to this one really provocative question. Are we teaching our students merely to read music, or are we teaching them to truly speak it? The blues shows us without a doubt that music is a conversation, it's a feeling, and it's a deeply dynamic human practice. If we want to keep music education vibrant, alive, and relevant for the next generation, we absolutely have to start speaking their language. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and hey, keep listening closely to the hidden DNA of the music playing all around you.